You know what's pretty awesome? X-Men. You know what's actually racist as f***? X-Men. In the world of X-Men, some humans develop a mutant gene that gives each of them unique superpowers and makes them demonized by normal humans. There are mutants like Magneto who want segregation, and others like Professor X's good guys who want us all to just get along. This is cheered as a socially conscious metaphor, but it ain't. It's the opposite. Let me explain. In the real world, racism is wrong because it sees causes where they don't belong. For example, you may have noticed that a lot of the world's best athletes happen to be black. But if you think black people are some alternate species that have natural athletic superpowers, you're wrong. And you might be a racist head. What actually makes people naturally athletic or smart or beautiful or anything are their genes. And the chances of them having certain genes come from the environment their ancestors were in, not the race of their ancestors. If any group of people ends up in an environment where they're forced to do manual labor, those most able to do physical tasks will pass on their genes more, either due to living longer or other reasons.
During slavery, they used to take the biggest, strongest slaves and breed them and try their best to make big, strong super slaves. There's evidence of that today, like the NFL, for instance.
Skin color may be found alongside a trend like that, but that's it. And if the environment changes, you'll find the same skin color attached to totally different things, and it'll still be meaningless. So much so, in fact, that scientists have a dickens of a time finding any actual trait that does align with our racial labels. Now, how does X-Men m*** this up? Well, in X-Men, the mutants are actually genetically different from other human beings. This means that there's an actual logical basis for discrimination, while with real racism, there isn't one. Thus, while it may encourage sympathy for the victims of racism, the nature of the metaphor makes it actually propaganda that implies a justification that racist oatmeal brains don't actually have. However, just because it shouldn't reflect real racism doesn't mean that X-Men stories can't still serve a social purpose. In fact, the whole thing happens to be an awesome analogy for gun control. Whether or not we allow people to have weapons that can kill large numbers of others. Whether those same people are the best defense against those who would use that power for evil, and particularly, whether all of those people should be registered with and thus potentially controlled by the government. And while X-Men isn't a good race metaphor, it actually does have a great race-related lesson in its ethnic characters and the perfect way they're handled. We'll tackle that in the next vid. See you there.